Our speaker is Iryna Pinich from Kyiv National Linguistic University, Ukraine. Today, she presents her talk on the topic, Conceptual Metaphors of Romantic Love in Contemporary Ukrainian and Their Contextual Dependence.
Greetings from Ukraine. I'm an associate professor at Kyiv National Linguistic University, and I'm very happy to be part of this conference and to share my findings on the contextual dependence of the conceptual metaphor romantic love in contemporary Ukrainian. In this presentation, I will examine whether the current situational context has influenced the emergence of conceptual correspondences between romantic love and war, a mapping that is notably absent from Ukrainian dictionary-based data, yet well established in English through the metaphor love is war. The research also explores whether the ongoing war foregrounds new or contextually salient source domains that reshape the traditional conceptual system of romantic love. In this study, I examine whether contemporary Ukrainian shows context-driven modifications in the conceptualization of romantic love, particularly in the conditions of ongoing war. The study combines traditional conceptual metaphor analysis with empirical survey data to observe potential context-driven shifts in how the concept is construed. To identify possible changes, a survey was conducted among young adults, a group likely to have frequent and vivid experiences of romantic love. The research integrates findings from a previously conducted dictionary-based analysis with newly collected survey data. The findings open a discussion on how different types of the context can contribute to the emergence of new metaphors, the activation of peripheral ones, or the modification of existing mappings. As first described by Lakoff and Johnson, concepts form the basis of how we perceive and make sense of the world. Much of this understanding is metaphorical, and primary metaphors, as they argue, are basic embodied mappings that arise from everyday bodily experience and correlate with subjective judgments. For example, the primary metaphor affection is warmth links the physical sensation of warmth, something we feel when we are near fire or in the comforting embrace, which is a source domain, with feelings of love and care, the target domain. Traditionally, within conceptual metaphor theory, metaphors were viewed as stable, relatively fixed mappings between source and target domains, while some metaphors showed features of universality. However, the extended conceptual metaphor theory broadens this view by questioning the idea that metaphors are universal. It introduces the notion of experiential focus, meaning that different cultures may foreground different aspects of experience. Importantly, context doesn't simply influence metaphor use once. It forms a feedback loop with an experiential focus, shaped by situational conditions, bodily experience, cognitive processes, and discourse. This leads to the central question of my study. To what extent does context influence the experiential focus in metaphor construction? More specifically, can the context of war guide the construal of romantic love metaphors in Ukrainian? And under what conditions do new mappings emerge? To collect the data, I conducted an online survey in March 2025 with 72 Ukrainian young adults aged between 18 and 23 from various unoccupied regions, but mainly the Kyiv region. While not on the front line, this area experiences frequent drone and missile attacks. The questionnaire included metaphor elicitation prompts, for example, romantic love is like, which invited the respondents to deliver as many associations as possible, and tasks exploring folk models of love, asking participants to describe what do they mean by ideal or happy love, do they believe in eternal love. The analysis followed 4 steps. First, I extracted all metaphorical expressions of love using a metaphor identification procedure. Next, I grouped them by source domains and compared these with conventional dictionary-based conceptualizations. And finally, I interpreted the most salient domains to understand how participants conceptualize romantic love today and to what extent the broader context influences these mappings. A combination of quantitative and qualitative analysis brought up the following conspicuous trends in interpreting romantic love in contemporary Ukrainian. The concept of love is conspicuously motivated by a set of primary metaphors. Romantic love is linked with the embodied experience of the physical warmth emanating from other objects and celestial bodies, when love is associated with the sun's warmth, but also a warm blanket or a warm tea. The idea of warmth overlaps with the understanding of love as pleasant natural phenomena, such as warm spring or warm autumn, summer, warm autumn wind, warm, soft and tender spring rain. Romantic love is also conceptualized as a force. Participants' understandings of love draw on different types of physical force, including optical force, gravitational or pressure force, magnetic force, counter-gravitational force. The primary metaphor good is up is reflected in associations of love with upward position and movement, such as lightness of the body, soaring, high spirits, and creative uplift. These images overlap with the idea of love as a counter-gravitational force that lifts the experiencer. While the latter two metaphors appear less productive in grounding metaphorical understandings of romantic love, the notion of physical warmth and comfort is further extended and elaborated in more complex metaphors, such as romantic love is home. The ideas of comfort, stability, affection, and closeness are captured in the conceptual metaphor romantic love is home. This metaphor is grounded in primary metaphors such as safety's enclosure, protection, based on early bodily experiences of being safely enclosed in a womb, a cradle, a room, or a home, as opposed to the dangers associated with exposure and openness. It is further supported by emotional well-being as safety, which derives from bodily states of feeling relaxed, unthreatened, and free from fear or alertness. Both metaphors arise from recurrent embodied experience, especially early in life. The primary metaphor, affection is warmth, although not explicitly stated, is strongly associated with the home domain and can be understood as a metaphorical entailment, given the experience of home as warm and comforting. In this way, the domain of home functions as an experiential frame encompassing safety and protection, comfort and physical ease, emotional stability, and social bonding. Unlike the love-home association, which didn't emerge in dictionary-based studies, the connection between love and magic reflects a more conventional conceptual mapping. Love is understood as producing profound, hard-to-explain bodily and emotional changes, often perceived as driven by magical forces. In cultural understanding, this mapping highlights altered perception or dreamlike states, difficulty explaining emotions, idealization of the beloved, emotional intensity, and loss of practicality. The image of a magic potion or altered perception caused by certain plants overlaps with another metaphor. Romantic love is a plant, with an explicit focus on flowers in the data sample, while plant domain is broader and more abstract, extending to familial and parental love. The image of a flower in blossom more specifically reflects the constructive, life-giving power of romantic love. This correspondent is supported by a set of sub-mappings that illustrate how romantic love develops over time. The top rank associations of comfort, safety, altered perception, and readiness for connection were observed in both male and female respondents. However, there are notable differences. Female respondents tend to focus on comfort and safety as central features of romantic love, while male respondents are more likely to emphasize loss of control as a key aspect, with comfort, safety, and long-standing relationships emerging as secondary features. Interestingly, comfort and safety were rarely linked with warmth, except in references to natural phenomena like warm summer nights or summer sunsets. Associations with risk or danger were observed mainly among males. Examples include romantic love is a posh, speedy car, expressed to convey excitement and risk. And romantic love is a disease, also mentioned to highlight uncontrollable effects. These male-associated metaphors suggest a different experiential focus, the risk and danger of uncontrolled emotions. Additional evidence comes from metonymical correspondences in the sample, such as orderliness for consistency of love, where love is conceptualized as consistent when events proceed according to a plan. or intimate sexual behavior stands for love, where sexual intimacy is used to represent romantic love. Further research, though, is needed to confirm these observations, as the low proportion of male respondents limits the balance of the sample and prevents drawing firm conclusions about gender-related trends. The most conspicuous difference between the dictionary-based analysis and the survey data is the decline in the conventional metaphor "love is in the heart, soul." While this correspondence accounts for more than half of idiomatic metaphorical expressions in dictionaries, it appeared only under the category of unrequited love. The survey data foreground romantic love as an intense dyadic experience. Accordingly, the increased frequency of love as a unity and love as magic aligns with respondents' focus on the emotional intensity and exclusivity of the beloved pair. A similar narrowing of the focus is evident in the plant metaphor. While dictionaries attest to a general love is plant correspondence, respondents consistently specify it as a romantic love is a flower, emphasizing the emergence and early flourishing of love. This focus resonates with the Ukrainian culture-specific concept zakokhanist, which highlights the initial stage of falling in love and the intensity of bodily experiences. Likewise, the metaphor "love is the sea or ocean" reflects a shift towards intensity and uncontrollability, in contrast to the dictionary-based metaphor "love is a river," which emphasizes continuity and stability over time. Finally, the prominence of the metaphor romantic love as a natural force in the survey data is closely linked to the focal primary metaphor affection is warmth. References predominantly concern warm seasons and seasonal warmth, highlighting romantic love as a constructive, life-giving force, traditionally associated with warmth and vitality. So, can the context of war guide the construal of romantic love metaphors? Drawing on the assumptions that situational context may shape metaphor use, the study explores whether wartime experience motivates source-to-target mappings between war and love. And to do so, it reassesses the experiential content of the contextual model of war and examines which elements, if any, are selected for the metaphorical conceptualization of romantic love in Ukrainian discourse. A key contrast between English and Ukrainian concerns the role of control. In English, the metaphor "love is war" foregrounds the conflict-related features such as struggle and victory. Such mappings are absent from Ukrainian dictionary data, where love metaphors show no systematic associations with conflict or opposition. This suggests a culturally specific separation of love and war in collective semantic memory. Accordingly, the assumption that the wartime context would directly shape romantic love metaphors was not supported. Instead, the findings suggest that broader cultural and cognitive conceptual contexts continue to play a primary role in shaping metaphorical patterns, even under conditions of ongoing war. At the same time, in addressing the broader question of under what conditions new metaphorical mappings emerge, it may be premature to strictly rank or differentiate the roles of individual contextual factors in metaphor generation. Even when direct source-to-target correspondences between love and war are absent, the survey data still show that metaphorical representations of romantic love remain sensitive to the situational context. Notably, these representations tend to dissociate from conflict-driven imagery. This tendency is reflected in the activation of metaphors such as romantic love is warmth, romantic love is warm natural phenomena, and romantic love is home. These metaphors may be indirectly motivated by the broader contextual model of war, which includes not only belligerence and destruction, but also experientially salient components such as self-protection, survival, and endurance. Overall, this pattern points to a tentative shift in cognitive attitudes towards romantic love, shaped by the wartime situation. In this context, safety, survival, endurance, overcoming fragmentation, and the preservation of identity emerge as dominant experiential primes. Thus, even though the war domain doesn't directly structure the understanding of romantic love, the wartime context nonetheless reshapes its understanding by redirecting experiential focus toward bodily warmth, feeling of safety and comfort, familial unity, home, and the security of mutual support in intimate relationships. In this sense, even though explicit war metaphors are absent in the survey data, wartime experience reshapes romantic love through context-induced metaphors, metonymies, such as safety for emotional security, care for affection, and physical strength for affection. Thus, war doesn't turn love into a battle, it turns love into a shelter. Thank you for your attention, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts and look forward to our discussions during the conference.